All right, let's do some pass rush tiers and let's just jump into it right away. I'm not even going to have any long intro. Pass rush tiers. So, ranking these all into tiers, just doing pass rush for what I think will happen in the next season. The bottom five, starting with the Seahawks. Listen, there's stuff to like about the Seahawks pass rush. You have Uchina Nuosu, butchered that name, but good player from the Chargers is solid. But other than that, like, okay, Boye Mafe, who is a second rounder, some people really like, but you're kind of relying on him now a little bit with, who else do you have? You have Darnell Taylor, who's fine depth. You have Tyreek Smith, who was a fifth rounder. Like, not a lot here. The interior is good, but it's good at stopping the run mostly. So that's kind of my concern. We're talking pass rush. Might not be the best pass rush. The Texans here are another team where, I like Jerry Hughes. Jonathan Greenard could be interesting. I'm interested in seeing him get a bigger role because he wasn't great in 2020, but looked solid last year. So we'll see. Mario Addison is solid as well. Ogabana Okaruko. Don't think I said that name right either. Listen, there's some tough names. Doing what I can here, but he was someone who I think is solid as well. So they shouldn't have like a complete mess there, but I just don't know if they're ever going to get like consistent pressure necessarily. The Bears don't love their interiors. So even though I like Robert Quinn, I think Alquan Muhammad and Travis Gibson are fine. It's like they're not really going to get set up too well with the other stuff around them, with the interior ability to pass rush, with Angelo Blackson and Justin Jones, who are fine. But again, kind of more run stoppers a little bit. And I don't know if I love any of these guys in general, like Robert Quinn. So tier 5 for me. The Falcons have Grady Jarrett, who I love. You have Arnold Ebiketie, who I was a huge fan of. I had a first round grade on him, even though he went in round 2. And then some other talented players. Lorenzo Carter is solid. They drafted D'Angelo Moore in the 3rd round. Taquan Graham is, again, he's fine. He's a 5th round pick. He plays like a 5th round pick. There's just not a lot of talent outside of Jarrett and Ebiketie, so that's why they're here. But at least they're getting better. At least you have Ebiketie now instead of just Jarrett. So moving in the right direction. The Jaguars at number 28. So they are here in tier 5, the best of tier 5, because you have Josh Allen, who's great, like Josh Allen. But what else do you have? Interior, I do not love. I think you might have saw my cat just jump through the gate there. Interior, I do not love. And you also have Trayvon Walker as well, who that's kind of what it comes down to, right? I think Trayvon Walker is a project. I do not expect Trayvon Walker to be great right away. I think it'll take him some time. And unless Caleb on Chason is going to finally break out in year 3, I think that just for this year, it's going to be Josh Allen trying to make stuff happen on his own. So it is tier 5 for me. Tier 4 starts off with a controversial one. Yes, I have the Titans here at tier 4, who, listen, love Jeffrey Simmons. That's really all I love about this defensive line. Again, Tier Tart's solid, and then Danico Autry is solid out of the interior. But like, I guess it comes down to how well do you value Harold Landry? He got pressure and he got sacks, but some of his advanced numbers and kind of underlying statistics suggest that a lot of those happened later on in plays because the Titans' coverage unit was good. Bud Dupree was also not great last year, did not live up to the contract, in my opinion. So Titans fans love their pass rush. They're convinced the pass rush is fantastic. I watched every Titans game last year. I was not as impressed. I was more impressed with the coverage. So that's how I view it. But either way, they'll probably get pressure because their coverage will probably be good. So at the end of the day, what's the difference? The 26th team I have is the Patriots, who I thought Judon was solid last year. I don't know if Judon was great last year, like some Patriots fans might think. Josh Uche can pass rush well, and that's how we're evaluating. Can't stop the run for anything, but as long as he can stay on the field, he can pass rush, which there's value there. The interior should help them out a lot as well with Lawrence Guy, Christian Barmore, and Devon Godshaw. So have guys who can play, and they'll should be able to at least rush the passer with some consistency. The Ravens here, who Calais Campbell can rush the passer from the inside. And then for the edge, you have Tyus Bowser, who's a very underrated edge rusher, I think. You also have Odafe Owe, who can, had a good rookie season. Maybe he can build off of that. Justin Manabuke from the inside should be solid. Michael Pierce could be solid. Wasn't great or healthy with the Vikings the past 2 years, but was good when he was back with the Ravens. So maybe going back here, we'll kind of have him return to form. You also have David Ajabo, who they drafted in the 2nd round, who, probably won't be much of an impact this year coming off an injury and as a bit of a project anyway. But, I'll mention him as well. The Jets, who hopefully Carl Lawson will be healthy. And if he's healthy, that's going to be a really good edge rusher to have. But again, what else do you have? Some stuff. Quinnen Williams from the inside, who should be good. I don't know if I love the rest of their interior, but Quentin Williams should be able to at least help them out to some degree. John Franklin Myers, who looked good in a relatively small sample size last year, but he would look good. And then Jermaine Johnson, who they drafted in the first round. And I wasn't as big of a fan of Jermaine Johnson as other people were. I just wasn't. I think that, his, analytics were not very good. That's just the reality of the situation. Now, maybe he'll still be able to overcome that. Maybe the talent will win out, but typically it doesn't happen year one. So, not relying on that necessarily. The Cardinals have a couple of rookies that they might be relying on, Cameron Thomas and Majai Sanders, both of which had good analytics. So that's why I like those guys a little bit more, even though they were third round selections and Johnson was a first round selection, because I think that they could end up, at least right away, having a bigger impact. And when you have Marcus Golden and Devon Kennard, those guys are kind of like top 50 pass rusher guys. So which one is the star here on the edge? None of them, but they can all play. You also do have J.J. Watt from the inside who should be able to help you out. The Colts to round out tier 4, it's going to come down to Unique Ngakoue. If Unique Ngakoue returns to Jacksonville, Unique Ngakoue, this could look really good because you have Kwity Paye, who was a really good rookie last year. And, Tyquan Lewis, I think, is, a decent guy, who was good last year. So we'll see how that works out. And then DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart can absolutely get pressure through the inside. It all comes down to Unique Ngakoue for me. Tier 3, we have, the Chiefs who, listen, like George Karlaftis that drafted him in round 1, like Chris Jones a lot, great pass rusher from the inside. But what else do we have here? Derek Nottie and Taylor Stallworth are fine. Michael Dana is fine. Frank Clark has not been great and not been worth that contract. So you need to see him step it up if they're going to be better than 21st on my list. Because they do have some good players, but it's inconsistent. The Bengals are kind of the opposite. They have a consistent group with Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, BJ Hill, and DJ Reader. Those are 4 good guys. Don't know if I love their depth, but still, they're 4 good players. But who's the star here? You could maybe argue DJ Reader, but, that's where I have them. As I feel, again, I like Trey Hendrickson. I like Sam Hubbard. I don't love either of those guys like some people do. You can only have so many guys that you love. That's how it works out. At least in football, in life, love as many guys as you want. Moving on to the Broncos, you have Bradley Chubb, who, only 268 snaps last year, but it is a consistent, very good edge rusher. And when you add Randy Gregory, you could have 2, that's at least just as good as the Bengals thing. I would say a little bit better, personally. I would actually say significantly better. Nick Bonino, who's a fascinating player. They drafted him in round 2, late in round 2, who he's one of those guys who has great analytics, but part of my concern when I watched his film is I felt like a lot of his wins were unique wins. He was, getting pressure with speed and sort of pass rush moves that don't typically work at the NFL level. So concerning to me, Broncos also have a good interior that should help them out, headlined by DJ Jones. The Lions I have here because I expect Aiden Hutchinson to be good right away. I really do. And when you add on Charles Harris, the Aquara brothers, and second-round pick Josh Pascal, this could be a really good edge unit. Now, the interior maybe leaves a little bit to be desired, so that's why it is a little bit lower down. But I think as long as Hutchinson comes in and plays well, which I expect him to do, this could be a very good pass rush unit, perhaps. So moving on to 17. Listen, I like Brian Burns. I like Yetur Gross-Matos. I don't think either are stars, but I like them both. They also have Derek Brown, who, again, I like. I'm not sure if I would call him a star just yet. And Matt Ioannidis, who maybe is the closest to being a star, in my opinion. And by star, I mean like top 10 at their position. Brian Burns is maybe, someone would say is a star. Depends on your definition of star. I guess maybe what I should say is, I'm not sure if I would call him great, but again, very good, complete defensive line, in my opinion. The Buccaneers are a little bit different in that I think they do have, higher end talent than the Panthers. I think Vita Vea and Shaq Barrett are both higher end talent than anything Carolina has, but they might not have quite the depth that some other teams do. Listen, they have Akeem Hicks, they have Will Goldston, they drafted Logan Hall and with the 33rd overall pick. They have Joe Tryon-Soyinka with the 32nd overall pick a year before. So that's all fascinating. And then the other headliner is Shaq Barrett. So Vita Vea and Shaq Barrett, 2 headliners, and they have some depth, but little concerned about if Tryon-Soyinka doesn't come in and play well. Is Anthony Nelson going to be the guy? He's played solid, but, that's the concern, is that other edge rusher spot for me personally. The Dolphins here. So you have Jalen Phillips, who, again, very hyped up first rounder, but has not necessarily lived up to that hype quite yet, but there's still time. Emmanuel Ogba, who's very good. Melvin Gordon, excuse me, not Melvin Gordon, Melvin Ingram, along with Andrew Van Ginkel, should be good depth. And then you have Christian Wilkins, who can get pressure from the inside. So stuff to like about this. There's a little bit more consistency in other units, but this could be really good if Phillips takes that next step forward. The Raiders here, you have Max Crosby, who is, great. Max Crosby was awesome last year. Chandler Jones, who, again, I would say is someone who, at least in the pass rush, was really good last year. Run defense, conversation for another day. So you have that right away. You have an interior, which is, it's fine. I'm not going to sit here and say this interior is great. I like Neil Farrell coming out of the draft, but you're still relying on a fourth rounder to get some significant playing time. But their edge rusher units should be able to rush the passer very well. The interior preventing them from being any higher than, tier 3 for me. The Chargers kind of have a similar issue. Again, Joey Bosa, awesome. Khalil Mack has been very good. He hasn't been awesome these past couple of years, but he's been very good. You also have Kyle Van Noy, who can, he will have snaps rushing the passer. So there's that. The interior, though, they've improved it. Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson are both fine, but how great do we feel about them? I don't know. The Vikings at 12, so they are going to be the last here in tier 3. Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter are both very good. Fantastic edge rush unit. And unlike some of these other teams, they have, Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips. That's a good grouping, but there's 11 more that I like better, but they're probably closer to tier 1 they're probably closer to tier 2 than tier 3. But moving on to the teams that actually made tier 2. Listen, I can only put, so many teams in each tier. Only 6 teams in tier 2. The Eagles are at the bottom of this list. I know, how could you put the Eagles there? The Eagles are way better. But listen, the Eagles have a great defensive line. They're a tier 1 run defense. But, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, they'll be able to rush the passer to some degree, certainly. In their edge rusher group of Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat, and Hassan Reddick, those guys will be able to rush the passer consistently, certainly. But I think other teams have guys who can just win more consistently. I do. That's how I view this. Number 10, you have the Bills. Like, for example, the Bills who have Von Miller, who, listen, they don't have the depth the Eagles do. No one has the depth the Eagles do. But they have Von Miller, who's going to win consistently and should be a big deal. And they still do have depth. They have Gregory Rousseau. They have AJ Espinoza. They have Shaq Lawson on the edge. The interior, Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver. This is a loaded defensive line. There's a lot of good defensive lines. People pay attention to this stuff. The Giants are another interesting one here, where one thing I like about the Giants is they can get pressure from several different ways. Leonard Williams can get pressure from the inside. Dexter Lawrence helps set up getting pressure from the inside. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, will come in right away and play very well. Azeez Ojulari can also get some pressure as well. So, there's just guys who can, I think, win more consistently. And I'm expecting Kayvon Thibodeau to step in right away and be that elite edge rusher. And if I'm wrong, well, then okay, then the Eagles will be better than them. But I think that can happen. The Saints here, I have at number 8, just because, again, David Onyemata and Shy Tuttle in the interior, very good. Exterior, no one calls it that. The edge, you have Cameron Jordan, Marcus Davenport, and Peyton Turner. Davenport's been very underrated. People felt like it was an overpay to get him, but he's played well. Peyton Turner played well in the small sample size we saw of him. So I'm very fascinated by him, and we all know what Cameron Jordan can do. The Cowboys, I do have here in tier 2, Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. Kind of enough said there. The depth, they have some guys who can play. I'm not thrilled about it necessarily, but Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence definitely are the headliners there. Even the interior isn't that great, but listen, you have the highest graded Pro Football Focus player at the edge rush position in Micah Parsons and the 4th highest in DeMarcus Lawrence. That's going to get you some pretty good value. Number 6, I have the Balls, who, that's the Washington football team. Chase Young and Montez Sweat, kind of another one of those. Enough said. You got those 2 guys. But they also have Jonathan Allen on the inside. So they got 3 guys, whereas the Cowboys just had 2. So that's why I decided to put them here. And they also have Deron Payne, who's very good as well. So they still have that high-end talent. Maybe not quite as good as Dallas, but they have more of a complete roster. So interesting. I put every single team in the NFC East in this tier. Kind of funny. And to round out tier 1, it's kind of the usual suspects here. 49ers, you got Nick Bosa. They added Drake Jackson, who I think will come in right away and perform. Eric Armstead is very good. Want to see more from Javon Kinlaw, but again, they got the high-end talent. I'm putting them here. The Packers, kind of similar thing. Rashawn Gary was awesome last year. I expect him to continue to be awesome. Preston Smith, very good. They added Devontae Wyatt in the first round, who should come in right away and play very well. And Kenny Clark, who is very good. And not to mention Dean Lowry, maybe Kingsley and Ogberry can come in and play well. But again, high-end talent, you're making tier one. And kind of same thing with the Browns and Steelers. Obviously, Browns with Garrett and Steelers with TJ Watt. The Browns also have, Jadeveon Clowney, who, we know what he is. He's a guy who disrupts things. Really, the Browns are here because of Myles Garrett, whereas the Steelers aren't just here because of TJ Watt. They have Alex Highsmith who can play. They obviously have Cam Hayward, who's awesome. So they actually have other stuff as well. But that's why, those two are theirs. I value high-end talent when it comes to just strictly talking about pass rush. Number one, though, I do have to go with, the team that has the best player in football, regardless of position. Aaron Donald, I have as number one. But again, it's not just him. You have Greg Gaines. You have A'Shawn Robinson on the inside. You have Leonard Floyd who can get pressure. I don't know if I love the rest of their edge rush situation, but they're still enough. Well, I'm giving it number one in football. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.